Hi guys, in this video we're going to look into batch rendering a scene. So you guys have slides on this, but I'm going to run through a video. So I've got this small little animation that we're going to batch render here and run through Premiere. So the first thing I need to do is make sure that I have my lighting set up. So let's go to Create, Directional Light. Let's just make that larger there. It might not be on for some reason. Just show all the okay. And there we go. Let's do a quick render of this here. Okay. Cool. Alright, I'm fine with that at the moment. So you would set up all your lighting sort of properly as you would before you want to render. I'm also going to create a camera as well. So let's go Panels, Perspective, Camera 1, and let's frame this here. And then going to go to View, and I'm going to go Camera Settings, and I'm going to turn on Resolution Gate, and then I'm just going to make sure that this stays in my frame so that it's going to render out this complete animation here. There we go. So that encompasses my animation. That should be completely fine there. Okay, so let's set up our render settings first of all. So I've clicked this little cog at the top right here, and I'm gonna go my software settings. Let's just set these to 3D motion blur production quality, the highest it possibly can be. Let's go into common settings, and now we need to set up a few of our common settings. So the common settings are mainly to do with the files that this is going to generate. So the first one is to change the file name prefix. So this is going to be tentacle sway. Okay. The next one underneath is the format that we're going to be in, and I'm going to render mine as a PNG there. Okay. The next thing is the frame/animation extension. So what this is how it's going to form the file name. And we're going to change this to this bottom one here, name underscore hashtag dot extension. What that's going to do is if you take a look up here, you can see it's going to be called tentacle sway underscore 0001.png. So it's taking this name here, it's taking the extension on the end there, and then this frame padding is giving us those extra zeros. Now it's good practice to put the frame padding to one number higher than the number of digits in your animation. So in my animation here, I have 97 frames. So 97 has 2 digits in it, 9 and 7. Therefore, I'm going to set my frame padding to 3. Okay, I didn't mean to pop that in there. So my frame padding, I'm going to set that to 3. And what that means is when it's 0, 9, 7, it's going to keep it all in order, which means it won't get frame 9 confused with frame 90 or anything like that. Okay, so I just always want a 0 in front of my digits. If I had 100 frames, I would set this to 4 because 100 has 3 digits in it, which means that my end frame of 100 would be 0, 1, 0, 0. Okay, great. So that's everything in that part there. Let's scroll down a bit. Start frame. Okay, so my animation starts on frame 1, it ends on frame 97. Therefore, I put start of 1 and an end of 97. Okay, moving down a little bit more, it's going to render by frame 1, which means it's going to render 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, etc. That's all good. Now, renderable camera, I need to change this to my camera 1. So that is this camera here. So if I just select that camera, camera 1, you can see it on the left-hand side there. So that's what camera it's going to render. An alpha channel mask, if that's ticked on, it means that if your file format, like that I'm using, so PNG, supports alpha, then it's only going to render out the actual subject itself. It's not going to render out any of the background. Now, we've also looked in the past, when you select the camera, have a look at its attributes, and you go down to environment and you change this background color. So let's just change this to green. Okay, when I do a test render, it's got a green background there. Okay, so if I have the alpha channel ticked on, it's not going to render out that green background at all. It's just going to render out the pink tentacle there. So if you want it to render out that background exactly as you see it, then you can just tick that off there. So I'm going to do that. That's just going to make it a little bit easier on me there. That green was a tiny bit garish, so I'm just going to tone it down ever so slightly. So it's just, yeah, a little bit more pale there, so when we render that out, it's a little bit softer on it. Okay, great. Now we can go down to our actual resolution in our render settings, and I'm just going to really easily change that to 1920 by 1080, HD 1080 there, 1920 by 1080, and then the resolution I'm going to set to 300. Okay, 72 is a fairly low resolution, 300 is standard. It will give you a nice crisp image. I highly recommend that you use that there. Okay, and that is everything for our render settings. Now the only thing we've not covered is this. You can see the path where it's going to render to. It would be much easier if it rendered, we could set the path in here, but we can't. So to set the path, it's going to render to your current project. So mine is default. So let's go to File, Project Window. Let's make a new project. You may have already done this for your project anyway. Let's call this tentacle render. Okay, and I can see that this is the path here where it's going to appear. So that's fine. I can hit accept there. So my images are going to appear in users, Matt Robert Hall, documents, Maya, projects, tentacle render, and then images, the images folder there. That's where they are going to appear. Okay, super. So now we can then make sure we change to rendering here. We can then go up to render at the top, and then we can batch render here, and then we can just click that and let that go. Okay, continue. So what this is now going to do is it's going to render out those 97 frames from this camera as I've set it. So you can have a look down the bottom here and you can see that it's rendering with software. It will take sort of a minute or so to go initially, and then it will start rendering. Looks like they're taking sort of a second or half or so to render. What I recommend you do at this point would be to go to your documents, find your Maya folder, find your projects, find tentacle render, and have a look in the images here, and you can see all those images are rendering here. So you can see them sort of appearing one by one. It's also really good just to double click them and have a look at them and to check everything's okay and everything's as you expect. Okay, great. So now it's just a case of waiting for those all to appear, and then we're gonna hop into Premiere. I'm just gonna pause this video here and resume it when those things are done.